Can you believe they actually made a sequel to this thing? Okay, everybody, today we are going all the way back to 1981 to look at a motion picture that people probably mostly remember for seeing in reruns on HBO over and over and over again, way back in the day. It's a staple of their childhood, for better or worse. Anyway, we're talking about Saturday the 14th. So before we go any further, and before we dig into this anymore, once again, and as always, to the trailer.
It gets bad on Friday the 13th, but it gets worse on Saturday the 14th.
The Book of Evil!
Evil?
Evil.
Richard Benjamin, Paula Prentiss.
We've inherited a house with a curse.
Oh, come on, Mary. You know you don't believe in curses. Well, somebody did the dishes, and we're the only ones in this house.
An innocent family driven absolutely batty. Just when you thought it was safe to look at the calendar again comes Saturday the 14th. The year's #1 horror comedy spoof.
God, look at all these owls.
My name is John Hyatt, and I've got bats in my belfry.
You know how many? We charge by the bat.
Hold it right down there.
No, darling, keep it away.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to take a look at her neck.
Well, if you don't trust me after 311 years of marriage...
When I leave this house, there'll be nothing left here to be afraid of.
Every shroud has a silver lining, so if you see every other chiller this year, you'll need Saturday the 14th.
Oh, this must be your charming wife. Famine. War.
Major pest control.
Death.
It's your chance to laugh at everything that ever scared you.
Come on, Billy, quit fooling around.
Give me a kiss, darling.
Oh, let me just see who that is. I'll be back for that kiss.
Be sure to see it before sunrise. Saturday the 14th.
Alright, this motion picture was directed by Howard Cohen, who did great monumental motion pictures like Space Raiders and Time Hackers and Space Case and the immortal Death Stalker 4. Yeah, I'm being really sarcastic. Anyway, that's kind of what he did. He really didn't direct that much. You'll understand why soon enough. Let's keep going. Okay, everybody, I'm just going to kind of fly through the cast in this thing. I don't want to devote too much time to it because simply it is what it is. Playing John, you got Richard Benjamin, who was in things like Westworld, and The Sunshine Boys, and Catch-22, and How to Beat the High Cost of Living, and Scavenger Hunt, and Love at First Bite, and Goodbye Columbus. And playing Mary, you got Paula Prentiss. You know, The Stepford Wives, Where the Boys Are, The Parallax View, Crazy Joe, Catch-22, Last of the Red Hot Lovers. And then you got Severn Darden. Yes, playing this kind of Van Helsing guy. Oh man, The Battle for the Planet of the Apes, The Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, Real Genius and Hopscotch and Mother Jugs and Speed, Day of the Dolphin, The Hired Hand. You got Jeffrey Tambor playing Waldemar. He's Dracula, whatever. He was in Arrested Development, you know, big TV guy, and Transparent, and Archer, and Larry Sanders Show, and Hill Street Blues, and Mr. Sunshine, and The Ropers, and Max Headroom. And you got Kari Michaelsen, I can't remember. But basically, she's playing the daughter, and she was on Give Me a Break, and Full House, and Heart to Heart, and Fantasy Island. Really, Give Me a Break, and that was about it. And you got Kevin Brando playing Little Billy, who was on a couple of TV shows like, you know, Flow and Newhart, and a little couple things like that. You're not going to remember him, and you're going to remember the daughter from one TV show, and the other people you're going to remember from being in some shit, but, you know, is what it is. Let's just get going to the story. Alright everybody, I always talk about keeping things to 90 seconds or less, and I never really ever am capable of doing it, but in this case, I think I might just pull it off. So, we're going to keep it short, keep it fast, keep it interesting, keep it entertaining, and we're going to get to, the place where we devote the most time. The summation right after this. This motion picture starts out, you got this guy Dracula, basically, and you got his wife, basically, and they're talking to a real estate agent, and they're very desperate to get into this new house that they want to buy. But she informs him, hey, man, there's this other couple, they just got willed to this house because an uncle of theirs, or whoever the hell he was, left the house to them. And they show up right at the time when El Count Dracula and the, missus there are checking this place out. And they go into this house, and they're like, whoa, this place is a little creepy, a little bit beat down, but it's ours, and we're going to have a new home. Soon you find out that their son opens a book called, the Book of Evil. And when he does that, all the monsters that are on the pages keep disappearing and appearing suddenly in real life in, around, and on the property of that house. Well, Dracula and his old lady, they're like, yo, we got to get in there because we got to get that book. That book is the ultimate source of power. That book is the ultimate source of taking over the world. We got to get in there. Anyway, motion picture continues. Weird things happen around the house, little spooky events, little whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. As the motion picture goes on, the wife finds a bunch of owls, as she calls them, hanging in the attic, and the husband calls up, the one and only pest control people who send over this Von Helsing-ish kind of fucking guy, and he's going to come over there and rid them of the evil and keep away, Count Dracula and his old lady. Anyway, long story short, he says, we got to get this book back. We got to sit there, and we have to rid this poor property, this planet, of the plague that is going to partake it. In there, the wife gets bitten by Dracula, and she's kind of trying to work on his behalf of finding the book for him and Dracula's wife. We don't care. We won't get in there. Doesn't make a difference. Anyway, the old Helsing guy or whatever says, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have a party. So we're going to have a bunch of people in this house. And during that party, we're going to use the power of the people's spirits and positivity to face evil and face, Dracula or whoever the fuck is going on. Doesn't make a difference. Sets up for the big ending where you get the M. Night Shyamalan reveal that the Helsing character is really the evil one trying to take over the planet. And, wow, Dracula and his wife are really good people and really a nice couple. And they're really just trying to save the earth and humanity from this evil guy trying to release the book. Ooh, the big switcheroo. Yeah, I gave you the ending because, really, who gives a shit? All right, everybody, does Friday the 14th work? No, it does not work. I hate making videos like this. I don't know why I'm doing it, to be brutally honest. I mean, what is the point of this? Friday the 14th really doesn't work. But to a lot of people, it has a certain charm and a certain likability. And it's almost become kind of a strange little cult favorite that people will reflect back on and somehow generate enough revenue to actually warrant a sequel. But before we go any further, let's get the big three out of the way. The directing, it looks like shit. It's one of those motion pictures that looks like it was made for television, and I don't mean good television. I mean like cheesy Saturday afternoon television. Yes, the directing isn't good. The shots aren't all that amazing. The pacing has issues. We'll get more into that, but the directing, the writing, the jokes don't land. 99% of the jokes in this thing just don't land. Is it some of the delivery? Is it the way they're written? It's probably a combination of the both. But it's supposed to be something, and we'll get into that, but it just doesn't land like others, and we'll get into that too. In the acting, what's odd is you have a solid cast. Well, at least you know your 3-4 main leads. It is what it is. Take it for what you want. But with the material they had, and the way this movie was kind of cobbled together and shot, everything just comes across looking really bizarre and weird. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily funny, but it's so awkward. At moments it's funny, where you're like, that joke didn't land. But the look on Prentiss's face and the reaction, I guess it's just weird. And you have that. So the acting performances are what they are. Capable people delivering performances with material in a movie. There you go. Now let's get back on track about why this motion picture does and doesn't work. It really wanted to be kind of one of those parody, comedy, stab in the dark, let's take a shot at it and see if it floats kind of motion pictures. You know the type. You're talking Airplane, obviously. You know what I mean? Airplane is kind of like the standard bearer. They took a whole genre They basically mocked it and made fun of it, and they spit it back at you, and you were in hysterics rolling. Even Student Bodies, which made fun of the whole slasher craze and the teenagers getting whacked by a guy with a knife and a mask to shit. Even that was brilliant, really. The way it presented itself, the way it did it, it was so over the top and ridiculous that you sat there and you loved it and you enjoyed it. Then came this. And it just didn't have the same success, warrantedly, and it didn't have the same creative and talented writing and point of directing and point of view that those other motion pictures had. You can see what it was trying to be. You can see what it was going for, and you can see how it fell short. And in a way, it's kind of strange. I seen this movie back in 1982 probably, because that's by the time it was hitting HBO and cable and all that kind of stuff. So I was an awe-inspiring 12 years old. And even then, I knew this was not a good motion picture. But you would watch it sometimes and say, this is just amusing because it's so friggin' stupid and so ridiculously bad. As time goes by and years go on, you look at it and say, this is a movie clearly that should have been targeted at people that were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. Clearly, that's where this thing might have worked. But there's just enough in it to pull it away from that. There's just enough, decapitated heads and shit like that, where you're sitting there saying to yourself, well, it's really not made for somebody that age. But that's the audience it might have worked with, because these kind of jokes and this kind of bullshit might have landed better. It reminds me of a movie I used to like when I was younger called Super Fuzz with Ernie Borgnine. That movie is shit. As I watch back at it, I'm like, this is not a good motion picture. But when I was a kid, I thought it was hilarious. Same thing kind of here. If you go and you say, I'm 8 years old again, I'm 7 years old, I'm 9, this thing might be okay, to a degree. But as you watch it through eyes anything other than that, you kind of say, my God, the limitations, the failings, and just the, I don't know, just the overall vibe of it and tone is just wrong and fails in every level. Now, does this motion picture have any benefits to it? Well, I guess it has a little bit. I mean, hey, the end fight scene between, Van Helsing and Dracula, Tambor and Severn is actually funny. The way they filmed it, the way those two guys acted is funny. So that last 3 minutes is actually, you're going to fucking laugh at it. You're going to, because they did that well. And the actors really saved the scene. So it has that. And it does have a kind of a quirk to it. You know what I mean? Where you know it's not being successful. You know what it is? It's like Airplane. After Airplane got scared watching Napoleon Dynamite. You know how Napoleon Dynamite has that kind of off pace, and the camera's held just a couple seconds too long on people's reactions, which makes everything it just feels off. But in Napoleon Dynamite's case, it's brilliant, and you're just like, oh my God, this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. In here, it just doesn't land. But it does give it that weird, quirky, I don't know what's going on with this movie and why did they make it kind of vibe. And for some people, yeah, it is what it is. It's enough to get it over the finish line. It's enough to make you sit down for the hour and I think 15 minutes or whatever short-ass runtime this thing has and check it out. Everybody, this thing is out there on enough streaming platforms and shit for free. You can check it out. You can watch it. It's all over the goddamn place. If you want, for purely shits and giggles, go check out Saturday the 14th. Is it a success? No. Is it good? Not really. Is it bizarrely quirky with editing choices that maybe if they chopped a second off of some of the reaction times might have been better? Probably. But in the end, it is what it is. It's hokey. It's campy. The monster suits look like absolute trash. The acting is over the top. The jokes land flat. Things that they think are going to be funny clearly are not funny. They're just awkward. But it is what it is. And there you go. All right, everybody. See you later. Be good, take care, stay out of trouble, be kind to a stranger, and therefore a friend, and most of all, and I mean most of all, never, ever, ever, ever take any bullshit from anybody. See you soon.